No, I'm not. It's just a fucking pen. Feldman, everybody. Cuomo is up at the Capitol yesterday talking about his devastating nursing home reaction. Right? Why are we talking to Cuomo? He's out. Caitlin Buss from the Detroit News, deputy editorial page editor. It's actually assistant editorial page editor. Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, is pulled up to Washington, D.C. yesterday to talk about his devastating commingling in the nursing homes of the sick and the healthy, as if a plastic sheet is supposed to save people. Viewers, you know, in the Journal of the American Medical Association, it's obvious it wasn't the workers bringing in the sickness. They did the study. Nursing homes in places like Detroit and New York, all of that, those that commingled and those that didn't, those that commingled, the death rate was nearly twice as high. We know what it is. And yesterday, they mentioned Gretchen Whitmer, who's still a governor. They only mentioned their name twice. So let me remind you that when it's all said and done, the government of Michigan's most important job during the COVID pandemic, and I won't forget it, was to protect the institutionalized elderly and infirm, and we know they failed. Remember, the independent report by the Office of the Auditor General of Michigan exposed thousands more people who died in nursing homes and other state-monitored facilities that weren't monitored, were supposed to be under the Whitmer administration. Remember the bizarre rebuttal when Whitmer and her minions and those in the media attacked the auditor as a partisan? These were just numbers. Numbers aren't political. The death numbers in this state were wrong then. They're wrong now. We won't get any answers, and we deserve them because, as they said in Washington yesterday, the next one's coming. And all we did was hide it. They knew they were wrong all along. They knew it. I had to sue, remember? Still, that didn't stop Whitmer from decreeing that infected elderly be let back into the nursing homes in which they lived, exposing the vulnerable to infection and death. And that didn't stop her from closing schools, prohibiting shopping for seeds, and shuttering small businesses. Why? To protect the elderly. You threw grass on the prairie fire is what you did. Want to know how many deaths there were probably? By my math, it's real. Probably 14,000. There were 16,000 in New York, which is twice the size of Michigan. That's double what the state admits now. Remember, these aren't numbers. They're human beings. What it all amounts to is this. Michigan officials overstated the threat of the coronavirus to the health of the general public, while it understated the devastation ripping through the state's long-term care facilities. Even former Governor Andrew Cuomo realized what was happening in New York, and after 40 days, he canceled the method and the commingling. They didn't even ask him that yesterday. Why did you end it? They didn't ask him that. He ended it in May 2020. Not only did Whitmer ignore the warnings from her friend in New York, which she denies is a friend, and we'll show you a little clip here at the end. 2 weeks later, she doubled down on the practice with her Executive Order 2020-95. She cited science and data as her guide star, data we now know she does not possess. And here's the smoking gun. Health officials tried on 3 occasions in the summer of 2020 to chart the true death toll in Michigan's nursing homes. The last came in August of 2020 when Cuomo's false COVID numbers started to come to light. On August 11th, the Associated Press reported that Cuomo may have been hiding the true count and fobbing the nursing home deaths off to the hospitals. 3 days later, a blizzard of emails were passed between Whitmer's health officials and state epidemiologists and her office asking if an update on the true nursing home death toll might be tabulated. And I quote, "This is of great interest to the governor's office," a health department official wrote to a state epidemiologist. "May I get an ETA when this data could be refined?" Those findings were never reported to the public, nor was the public ever made aware that there were problems with the data in the first place, data that was used to make societal altering decisions about personal conduct and movement. It took us years to wedge the truth from beneath the bureaucratic rock. And when we found it, the media aided and abetted the escape of Human Services Director Elizabeth Hertel from her culpability by confusing guidelines and hair splitting about who the department was supposed to track. More astounding, Hertel claimed the numbers reported to the public were accurate because those were the numbers the nursing homes gave her. No double check, no verification, and the media went along with it. The problem is, according to the Auditor General's report, the state never bothered to audit their own truthfulness. They didn't want the truth. Before Hertel, the chief boob of the health bureaucracy was Robert Gordon, who was fired when was it, 2021? Yeah, 2021. He got fired. The political term is she asked for his resignation, and Whitmer then quietly paid him $155,000 to keep his mouth shut. The political term is offered a severance package with a non-disclosure clause. Whatever you call it, it was paid with our money, our blood, and our elders. What's Gordon doing for work right now? Might you wonder?
What?
What's he doing? Wait for it. Incredibly, he is the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. How fucked is this? Neglect, involuntary manslaughter, murder, I don't know. I leave it to you, but I'm not giving it up. And then after we show you this little bit, we're going to talk about the debate last night. We're going to talk about Benson in the Supreme Court and the election. We're going to talk about Dana Nessel. And we're going to talk about you, Feldman. Feldman out of D.C. I need to talk to the UAW because a factory is closing in my hometown. And the UAW that I used to belong to, the UAW, sending me to a guy named Feldman in Washington, D.C. What? Play the tape.
You said you always were in touch with these governors. You would chat with them and ask them questions. Did you happen to talk to other governors about the nursing home situation? And did you talk to Cuomo about it at any point?
I never talked. I mean, didn't have a relationship with him.
True or false?
Well, a relationship is a question of perspective. If she says we didn't have a relationship, we didn't have a relationship.
Did you ever talk?
Well, I'm sure you have a press release that we both did. I'm sure that didn't happen anonymously.
Did you ever talk about nursing homes?
I don't recall specifically what we talked about. Well, that topic of that press release was the nursing homes.
Roll credits.
Live from downtown Detroit, it's the No Bullshit News Hour with my main man, Charlie LeDuff and Karen Dumas.
It's just it, breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
I protest.
There's only room for one.
I protest.
Let me just put these smoking gun documents back in the holster. Caitlin Buss, I was joking in the beginning, is the assistant editorial page editor, which there is no deputy editorial page editor.
Right.
So you're pretty much the deputy.
Well, sure.
Would you like that title?
Sure.
Let's see if we can get her that for
the
Christmas.
Okay.
Do you need any more money? The paper doesn't have it.
We need more subscribers. There.
Subscribe. Where do we subscribe?
Our opinion page. Go to debtnewsopinion.com and then hit subscribe and we'll get the credit.
Okay, no. Go to your column today in the Detroit News, which is a really good one, and then hit subscribe off of that page so you get the credit for it.
That works too.
Because that's how these hedge funds work now. Bean counters. There's no art left.
No, it's not.
There's no art.
It's all about profit, Charlie.
Well, it always should be about profit, but profit is generated by a sharp pen and tight thoughts. And we're losing that. What's becoming apparent, not your home, but in general, writ large, the media is becoming cheap.
It's frustrating to watch some of the media coverage.
In fact, we might as look. I watched, my thing yesterday was Cuomo's testimony, and he just dumped it on Trump, and Trump didn't commingle people. Trump's got a lot of problems. The response was sclerotic at best. Okay, fine. But everybody else was watching the debate, which is the subject of your column, and you two were. What did you two make of it? Just go ahead.
Well, I thought it was frustrating. I thought it was a frustrating debate to watch. I don't think it moved the needle in any particular direction. If it did, it may have helped Harris a tiny bit. But I think people are set in their ways about these, particularly about Trump. I mean, they know what they need to know about Trump. And Trump was no different than Trump kind of normally is. I thought he was a little more reserved. He didn't call her, I don't know if he called her any names or not. Not in the way that he usually does. So on that metric, he did a good job. But she performed well, too. I think we didn't get to know her necessarily any better. I mean, the content of what she said, even though it sounded good and it flowed well, I don't know that there was much there, particularly on the first question. I mean, are voters better off? If you don't know that question's coming and you don't have a better answer, whatever it is, that's annoying to me.
I don't have cable. So, I was live streaming it and it was buffering wrong. I didn't see the open. What did she say about are we better off?
Well, the first question was to her whether or not Americans were better off today than they were before she and Biden took office. And she did not answer the question, but that was one of 3 questions that she did not answer throughout. So in terms of message management and from a performance standpoint, she did a good job. Trump.
You mean she didn't fuck up?
Well, I mean, but see, this is the thing though. Everybody listens differently. And so, I mean, that's why people like preachers and politicians can get over, because it's your ability to orate and, how do you look? How do you stand? What are you wearing? All those things sometimes take precedence over the content. And so people say, oh, they did a great job. Okay, but what was said? I read an article this morning and they were talking about undecideds. And they said they thought that she did a good job, but they're waiting for the fine print. For Trump, you know what you're getting with Trump. And so I don't think that anybody expected too much. I know the Republicans were encouraging him to stay on fact and leave the emotion out of it. But, he was frustrated and it started to show.
Fuck the Republicans. Cause look at these losers. They're losers. They are. You got decimated. Your party got stolen. And now you want to tell the guy that figured it out how he's supposed to act. And the more he listens to you, the less he's himself and the less effective it becomes.
Well, right. I mean, it's worked for Trump so far, right? I mean, he's more popular, according to polling right now than he was in the past. And so there's this huge dichotomy between don't be Trump, except Trump knows that what he's doing works.
It works for
and
him.
Honestly, he's had Democrats on their heels, I want to say, since he came on the scene, I mean, so much of the past 2 elections has been a response to Trump. And so it's hard to say it's not working. The Republican Party wasn't unified before Trump. He saw, that opportunity and he met that moment. But, it's been working for him. And what's to say? I mean, I wouldn't do another debate if I was him. I would just let people live in their own misery and come to the voting booth on Election Day.
Exactly. I would agree with that because, look, what I saw last night was, him getting fact checked. And okay, cool, fact check him because, dude, there is not a law anywhere in the country where you can put a 1-month-old down. It's just, right? And you should check Twitter when you're looking at cats being eaten in Ohio. The police video from that was like something like Dayton, not Springfield, and it was an American woman, not a Haitian woman, right?
Right.
But the problems are big. But what I saw last night was no fact checking on the Democrats.
Right.
Right? Like, I came into office, inflation was 9%. No, it wasn't.
But
right.
but that's the skewing that happens,
I'm sick
and
of
people don't understand that. Just like their podiums were different sizes.
Right.
They mandated or requested that Harris's podium be shorter because she didn't want to appear so small. She's 5'4", he's 6'2", 6'3". So those kinds of things in terms of shaping, managing the optics and the perception have an impact on the viewers, and people don't realize that.
I didn't even notice that. So how did it turn out?
So they noted, basically this was day of news that she had a smaller podium. I read a piece about it. And then, before the debate started, they kind of mentioned she chose the podium on the right, so that you could see they were a little bit different. But what they do, they split hairs on this stuff, and it is important to be accurate. And Republicans have shot themselves in the foot, just as much as Democrats by not being accurate about certain things, and then it negates their whole message. On this cat thing, yes, that seems to be an American woman in Dayton, Ohio. At the same time, we have other video evidence that's talking about a real public health concern, a real safety concern, people eating animals from public grounds. Both things can be true. There can be this American woman who ate a cat, and then also non-native people who are doing this at the same time. But it's important to be accurate, and Trump shot himself in the foot by maybe misstepping and not knowing the background of that particular video, because now it negates the whole argument, and you can't get grounding on what is actually going on, what is actually the problem.
See, but here's the double standard. Yeah, he lost traction. We're talking about misinformation and banning people. I'm looking at newspapers. I'm looking at what Harris is saying. I'm looking at the campaign commercials and literature. It's misinformation. Trump didn't say there's good people on both sides. I like right. Nazi youth. He didn't say it. He didn't say there's going to be a bloodbath if I don't get elected. He said it's going to be a bloodbath if we let China build electric cars in Mexico. That's what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. She doesn't get fact checked. Nobody gets. So I asked my daughter. She's going to be 18 on election day. She's voting. I said, you need to watch it. You need. And
I'm sorry for her.
No. This kid's hip. Can I read to you her expert analysis? This is really interesting. She watched the first debate with Trump's and Biden. So first of all, she said, Trump looks like a corpse. Remember how orange he looked against Biden? There you go.
And from the TikTok generation,
I got a text. Yeah, you're like, that's it. I actually got a text.
But that's enough. And the thing about it is that we have to listen to, that younger demographic. I mean, they're being kind of pushed aside, but their perception is probably more accurate and poignant than anything that we come up with.
Yeah. And that generation, man, they're bleary-eyed. They're anxious.
And they're also tired.
They're tired. Yes.
They are. They're tired.
They're
because
physically tired.
It's the shuffling. It's the conversation. It's the promises that are never met. It's the recycling of talking points. And where are we?
And they're beginning their adult life, and the money's fucked up, and they can't afford anything, and they know
that's why they're tired. Right?
Yeah,
Welcome to adulthood.
Yeah.
It's all exhausting. They're just so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
See, listen, we're empty nesters. My daughter has moved to the basement among the plumbing pipes
level
and the spider webs.
Lower level, Charlie.
Okay, we're empty she's one branch over, but we're still empty nesters, and that's just my main concern. I'm nobody's again, Trump. Why don't I rip on Trump more? Because we spent the last 8 years doing it. Okay. It's your turn now. You guys are in charge. I'm listening to $50,000 for small business. You know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm doing? Kamala Harris promised me new house and money for my business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going back to Piedras Negras on the other side of Eagle Pass. And I'm entering illegally, and I'm going to register for my $150,000 house in California that Gavin Newsom will sign after the election.
Will you promise not to eat my pets?
I won't eat your pets.
All right, thank you.
Unless you have chickens. I used to have chickens. I didn't eat them, though.
What did you do with them?
I gave them away after I moved away.
I used to have chickens, too.
What were their names?
Picante and Marsala, but we were very young in our defense. We were
tasty.
very young.
Ours were tick and tock. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
But no, I mean, wasn't the idea to keep, anxiety off of kids? Not the reality of life, but to keep needless anxiety from kids. I mean, that for I grew up not terribly long ago. That kind of was the mentality. Let's keep things, and now it's like, let's just plunge them right in. Oh, you're 13. Let's register you to vote. Now, I want to be accurate. That is not happening. But 16 and 17-year-olds, we're going to get them registered to vote. I mean, we don't even necessarily want them driving. And we're trying to get them involved in this process. And I don't see it as a way to, unleash, the beautiful things about democracy to them. It seems like a way to pummel in. This is yet another thing that you need to be anxious about. And the future of the country's riding on your back.
It's almost choosing another identity, right? Like which group do you want to belong to?
Right. Yeah. Very young.
I belong to them all. I'm going to vote very many times.
As you're allowed.
Which part? We're going to get to that. Oh, man, what a mess. Look here now. Again, can somebody be blue collar and old school around here? Like, can you just do your job? Jocelyn Benson and Dana Nessel and Gretchen Whitmer, Kamala Harris, and, I did that when Trump was in charge, and when Snyder was in charge. We're just losing ground. And now I got to call Feldman in New York. We'll explain. It's 9/11. Anyway, we'll explain all of that when we come back after this very important message from our sponsor. And by the way, what the hell is going on with insurance for small? Do you know they're jacking everybody's insurance up by like almost 100%?
I've heard that.
With all the restaurant stuff, and like you get all these paid days off, and it's $15 to $20 an hour minimum wage. So it's estimated a quarter to a third of small business might close in the next year. You know this.
Yep.
Because you're really smart, and I got it from you, actually. And
it's common sense.
It's common sense. And so when I bring you these commercial messages, these are very good products, very good help. Very good people. Support them. Roll the tape. Two with everything. A side of cheese fries to go. Ready, set, go, red, go.
Detroit might not make it to the championships, but you can have a little bit of Detroit at your next championship party. American Coney Island, 12 dogs with all the fixings. Air mail special, right to your door. That includes Alaska and Hawaii. AmericanConeyIsland.com. The first, the best, and better than all the rest. And they can't fly either.
Yeah, baby, I'm going to Vegas. They got a Coney store there too. Yeah. To like who? Luke Nowacki. I like Luke Nowacki because unlike the media and the politicians, he does not lie to you. Money. There's nothing more serious in America than money. And the whole world, actually. That's why the whole world's coming here, right? Because we have money. And if we don't have money, we just print the money. And when we print the money, the stock market goes up and down like a washwoman's ass on Monday, up and down. What is going on? My 401k's doing great. Is it doing great? Adjusted for inflation. There was a smart ass in the media here. I put, whoop-de-doo, the Dow hit 40,000. Adjusted for inflation, it's less than 1% growth a year. That's not how it works. With a meme, that is how it works. Because you're going to find out, business guy, that on September 18th, the S&P 500, which is an index, is going to recalibrate its divisor. What they do is they take the 500 stocks, the price, they add them up, and they divide it by a number. It's complicated, but it would be 500, except there's a stock split. If everything's split, that would be divided by 1,000 instead of 500. That's how it works. You're going to see a lot of movement. I would short the market, but I'm not a gambler. Neither's Luke Nowacki. He's making decisions based on what's good for your financial health. He'll tailor a financial plan specifically for you, annuities, retirement accounts, college savings, maybe a little gold, a little silver. You see what gold's doing? Mm-hmm. Do you see what DTE's doing? Yeah. Told you. Yeah. The Green New Deal. Either they're going to get us the Green New Deal and it's going to be a very lean and profitable company, or we're going to have electricity shortages, which is good for the stockholder. I don't know. Call Luke. Don't call me. 248-663-4748. Let Luke Nowacki worry so you don't have to. Archangel, are you an entrepreneur looking for a safe and socially responsible real estate investment? Here's what it is. I don't mean to make it sound like this, but it's franchising. It's franchising. You are a caregiver. You buy the product from Archangel. The flow, they staff it for you. They get the property. That's what the investors come in for. And you, like a restaurant, work it off, and eventually you become the owner. The investor gets paid. The caregivers can actually end up being their own bosses. People get to live in communities. They're clean. They're small. They're tight. If you are interested in investing in this, you'll get a better explanation from Archangel. 989-614-0416. Believe me, this is the future. This is what's happening in Abu Dhabi. This is what's happening in Phoenix, Arizona. It is the new way. We've seen what's squalor and filth. And by the way, who else benefits? The people that live in these places,
The
right?
people that need care.
The people that need care, that work their whole lives, that don't want to be sucked dry and left in a dirty diaper. It's not like that. It's a nice communal living organization. Archangel, 989-614-0416. See how we don't take jive turkeys here. We're not, no. I believe in every one of these people that advertise here. Yep. And by the way, AmericanConeyIsland.com. Get the dogs delivered to your door, proprietary. The chili made specially for here. The dog specifically for here.
Hot
Nobody
dogs.
else. Nobody else. It's actually a sausage.
Just want to make that
It's actually
clear.
a
These are
sausage
hot
with a
dogs.
lamb casing.
Okay, whatever. It's just not just a dog.
The onions are Vidalia. Did you know they're Vidalia onions?
No.
Because you eat here.
I do.
Yeah. And those are steamer buns.
They're great.
And the Euros.
We
The
always know
Euros
what
the
we're
best.
getting.
Huh?
It's a reliable,
Yes.
yummy lunch.
Yummy. Okay. You know it's not yummy? Jocelyn Benson. How's that for a segue?
That was an awkward segue, but go right ahead.
It'll work. We'll fix it in post. All right, listen. Okay, editorial page editor. What happened this week with Jocelyn Benson and RFK? Go ahead, set it up.
Well, okay. Benson.
Concisely, please.
Okay, all right. Well, she maybe just put the election in jeopardy. I don't know. I don't see how what has happened. So RFK, said he's not a candidate. He's endorsed Trump. He wants to be off the ballot. There was plenty of time, before the deadline to make this happen. The election is 2 months away. But she, ruled that he or pushed to have him stay on the ballot, finding that, there was no requirement for her to meet his request, essentially. I think the Supreme Court, and I'm not a justice there, but I think the dissent from the Supreme Court ruling was very apt in pointing out this could jeopardize the entire election. This is not based in any, standard reading of our law. And it contributes to just way more mistrust in our election process. He also, it's compelled speech to some extent. The man doesn't want to do the job. And, why should he have to be on a ballot? At the same time, Benson has tried to keep Cornel West off the ballot. So it's pretty obvious at this point. They want who they want on and they want who they want off. And that's where things stand. That wasn't.
It does. That's manipulation.
Exactly.
I agree. Look, this is why I say the Michigan Supreme Court did not rule that RFK Jr.'s name must remain on the ballot as a matter of law. What they ruled is there's no law preventing Jocelyn Benson from keeping his name on, even though he wants his name off. Okay, so she's playing politics. Dr. Cornel West, a black man, wants to be on as an independent and earned his right, and she tried to take him off because it will help Harris. Kennedy, a white man, wants to be off, but she won't because it hurts Trump. It only hurts us. It only hurts us. Look.
And having the court system now complicit in these manipulations, you now have two branches of power, not only taking each other's independence, but working together, it would appear to some extent. And what that does to the psyche of we don't understand how much we rely on this separation of powers and this understanding that there is accountability and rule of law. And so to see a top elected official behaving this way and not know what the recourse is to hold her accountable for what could be a huge, problem in this election, which people already know there's going to be problems. It's very irresponsible.
But there's been no accountability, and people they continue to get away with it. So it's like, okay, well, I wasn't accountable for that. Nobody questioned this, so I can just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's how Benson screwed the push. Look, I'm sorry, madam, you're garbage. You know what I mean? I voted once for all these people, never again, because here's what you did. You tried to tell election workers, don't worry about the signatures, right? Take it at face value, just push them on through. It's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. That's not a Secretary of State. You also tried to take in late ballots received after Election Day. Not legal. You can't do that. You also came up with unilateral rules for poll challengers. I'm the poll worker who was, processing those absentee ballots, and there's people that stand over you like this and make notes like, little eager beavers. Like you can't just unilaterally make behavioral rules for them. You lost that one in court. You also, remember in 2020, not only can you not bring a firearm in the polling place, you can't be within 200 feet with your firearm. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. And the court struck that one down. And we have new rules about, challenging, the help me out here.
Watchers.
The certifiers, right? Like you can't. The power is no longer in the canvassers, the board of canvassers.
Right. So that before the election, now they've had to say they're going to certify these results no matter what.
Yeah, but that law doesn't take effect until next year. But they've decided unilaterally it takes effect right now. You can't do that, but you can, because what you brought up was rule of law. And you know what? Here's the law, right? It's a rectangle. It's written here, and all this gray area, like who's to tell her no?
Yeah, it's real. This election stuff is really tricky and it's really dicey because there's two set of rules. Did you break the current, what is today, the law for elections? Okay, maybe not in the current understanding of whatever we've done. But before COVID, we had a different election system in this country and really in Michigan for sure. I mean, we have expanded our election. It is a different event now. And I think a lot of people know that, but maybe not everybody realizes how much we've changed this. From a one-day event, maybe you get a week before, maybe we make some exceptions to make this accessible to, this is now an era of time in which you're deciding, in which signatures can be manipulated, in which confusion can happen.
The integrity of the process. That's what that.
It's a one day, one vote.
And again, so all these things we brought up, the confusion, like the checks and balances. But there are no checks and balances if it's a uniparty type of thing. So like Dana Nessel not looking at any of this.
No.
Dana Nessel won't look into the nursing homes to bring it fully back around, right? Letitia James in New York, the one that took Trump Tower, tried to take Trump Tower. Mm-hmm. All right. She's the one that investigated what happened in the nursing homes. She's the one that took Cuomo out at the knees at behest of Cuomo himself, who was trying to fob the nursing home fiasco off on the nursing homes because I wrote down, you can't do this unless you're able to do this. Mm-hmm. Okay, they weren't able to do it. So she looks into it and boom goes Cuomo, and we now know the numbers were way out of line. I remember Nessel telling the population of Michigan that what happened here is not like what happened in New York, because she had actually talked to Letitia James, and Letitia explained to her that a whistleblower in New York had exposed the fact that the numbers were a lie. Well, I know Letitia James's people, and I know Dana Nessel straight up lied to you because she never talked to her, and it wasn't a whistleblower. Letitia James put up a website to field complaints, which you won't do. And you won't look into, here's what I know. I'm on record, and you can save your death threats. There were no fake 150,000 ballots came in at TCF. Didn't happen. But I do know this, that 62% of adults, all adults, legal, illegal, whatever, just adults, 62% of adults in the United States are registered to vote. 62%. In Michigan, it's 106%. So right there, you got a problem. There's a lawsuit going on. We can't clean up the rolls. You got a problem. Like you said, like we changed everything and now we're seeing what it is.
Yeah. And I think the internet's contributed to this. I mean, it's kind of blows people's mind that we don't have a national system for voting, that there is actual local control, that states have control over how these things go. It's all part of our, rampant information. So of course it's going to change, but a little humility on the part of these elected officials. They don't have to know everything, but if they're going to say things like you have to compulsory follow our COVID guidelines, then you should have some fact and science to back it up. And that's what we're learning now. Oh, we didn't have enough. We couldn't keep track of the numbers. You were telling us we were going to go to jail if we didn't follow what you said.
Right.
We were so dumb and it turns out we were right.
Or we were all wrong together, right? I mean, let's get to some level.
I'm just like, they're dying in the nursing homes over here.
But I mean, the whole cross-contamination thing is just a very basic common sense kind of thing. I mean, we think about cross-contamination if you're, cooking a chicken and, you don't wash your hands and you touch something else. I mean, so if someone is sick and someone is not sick and you co-mingle them, the person that's not sick is likely to get sick, not the well person make the sick person well. Like, that's just common sense.
It's all fakery. Like,
where's the buck stop? I mean,
It doesn't.
Cuomo puts out a piece of paper with his name on it and sits there and says, I have no idea. That shouldn't matter. Your name is on it.
I have no idea. I mean, do you buy that? A middle level bureaucrat wrote the co-mingling the nursing home rule and what?
But here's the thing. We don't buy it. But in Congress, in a congressional hearing, they can't get anywhere because you can't even establish that you said what you did, in fact, say, which is written here, or what it was. You can't even get to that basic level.
And yeah, I mean, Whitmer sits there on TV and lies to the host. I don't even know Cuomo.
So that's what's frustrating to me is just the obfuscation of questions, the blame shifting. It's the healthcare workers that did it. It wasn't our policies. That kind of stuff is really pissing people off.
You know what else? Media man, you, the media man.
Is that me?
Let's talk about media here, right? She was always paid to spin us. Here's what I'm sick of hearing. Ask the tough question. No. You're supposed to know the answer to that tough question. Ask the follow-up question when you get them bullshitting you. But nobody even knows the answer to the question anymore. They don't want to know the answer. And it just kills me. I'll just say this before we go with our, remembrance of 9/11. Feldman in Washington, D.C. Where's he at, Mark? Where's Feldman based? The Feldman Strategies Group.
It's in the House Media Building. Is that what it was? I already forgot. We looked it up earlier.
In Washington, D.C. It's Feldman Strategy. I want to talk to the UAW. I want to talk to Sean Fain. See, I used to be in the UAW. In the 80s, you couldn't push a broom in a factory without belonging to the UAW. You had to do it. Even you're 18, you had to do it. You had to pay dues. Traveris, I don't know where he's based, man, like Rome or Paris, or maybe Amsterdam, wherever Stellantis is based. They got like 18 headquarters. It's this conglomerate. You're laying off 2,500 of my neighbors over here at the Warren Truck Plant, right? And it's bullshit, and I want to answer since it's Chrysler that's making money for that whole group, how we're out on our ass after we gave you $500 million for the Jefferson and Mack plant that you haven't staffed like your price and shit. So I'm like, I'm going to talk to Sean because Sean ripped Traveris. He goes, this piece of shit gives himself a 56% raise, and we're out on our ass. I agree with you, Sean. But I got all these pinheads. I can't reach the UAW? You're giving me a progressive, what is this? What kind of business is this?
Consultant?
Spokespeople? Strategists? Feldman, his pronouns are he and him, which I think is very sexist. No one's asking.
Just so you know, they're a progressive strategic communications firm that specializes in developing and telling stories of our clients with both traditional media and digital space, which is why they're located in the National Press Building.
Wow.
And they represent progressive clients. Yeah. It's the UAW, motherfucker. Exactly. It's 8 Mile, motherfucker. This is hardcore. You couldn't find the Warren truck plant if I gave you $300 to get an Uber to come see it. Sean, why do I got to go through these pinheads? What's happening? What is happening? No, this is war. Did you? Hey, Feldman, did you guys look me up? Yeah, I heard the questions you asked. I'm gonna look into you, Feldman. Sean, call me. And Caitlin Buss, the assistant, soon-to-be deputy editorial page editor for the Detroit News, sharp pen. Mm-hmm. Great brain, sharp pen.
That means a lot from you.
You know how to, thank you for that. You know how to write. I mean, you know how to think, but you know how to write. It translates. Okay. These are crisp. I really recommend it. She's almost as good as Karen.
That's right. Don't even try it. And what I also like, I like to see you doing more broadcast interviews, because I remember your first one and you were kind of nervous, and you have just blossomed. I mean, I appreciate your opinion, your perspective, and how you present your opinion and facts. So seriously,
I've had some great people to look up to around
Caitlin.
here.
I like her as a person. So that makes a big difference for me. So I like you as a person and as a professional.
It's a great group of people down here making news happen.
God, let it that.
We like you too, Charlie.
We had lunch. We're ladies who lunch.
We too.
Well, hey, listen, we like having you around here too. There's a broom right over there. What?
No, we don't sweep, Charlie.
Am I getting flamed for that one?
Yeah, you might.
Whatever.
I have swept in jobs in the past.
Yeah, and I did too, and paid dues to the UAW.
I didn't have to do that, but.
Wow, man. Okay, so anyway.
9/11.
It's 9/11. Everybody I know that's gone, I'm thinking of you. I'll just say Eddie Keating, my dog. You know, Eddie, there's an old saying, a man dies twice, once when his heart stops, and the other time is when they say his name for the last time. So as long as I'm alive, brother, you're alive. Never forget. See you next week. "9/11? Yeah, I remember I was. But definitely remember where I was. Never forget it. Ever. The day started out, it was election day in New York. They had come up with this new funding, $4 public dollars for every dollar that you raised. So it was gonna be a zoo. And I remember being at the New York Times, looking at that coverage out of Florida, thinking, you did every story except the working man story. And what would that story be? It'd be the voting booth mechanic, the guy that's got to sharpen the pins, that pokes the ballot, that doesn't create a hanging chad. So I figure, why don't I do that guy in New York? There's gonna be an absolute zoo. So I arrange it. I'm gonna meet Board of Elections, voting booth mechanic, Lower Brooklyn, and I get to the parking lot in front of this school, and you look up across the East River, little before 9, September 11, 2001, and the North Tower's burning, and we look at each other, and he says, must have been a little airplane, a Cessna hit it. I go, yeah, that once happened in the Empire State Building long ago. And as we're watching it, because we're not in any hurry at this point, the South Tower gets hit. He, the principal, his bosses, everybody knew that wasn't no Cessna. You knew what that was. We were attacked. So we go into school and the principal locks it down. Our cell phones aren't working. Completely dead. Don't work. I get in the car. For some reason, he's in tow. And we stop at a deli, a Korean deli.
And the guy's been watching TV, and he says, bad day for America. I said, yeah, you from Korea? He said, yes, sir. I said, you're our friends. Bad day for all of us. I got on the transport with the National Guard, and they took me into Manhattan. I got off the bus. There was dust everywhere. It seemed like there were 10,000 shoes just going north. People had just run out of their shoes in fright. It was just covered in like this funeral dust. It was so quiet. And I spent that whole night carrying buckets around, trying to help find people. Because again, there were no National Guard, there was no recovery, there was no unions. It was just substantial people running there. And the iron workers, they brought their tanks, they brought their torches, they brought their goggles. And they went into Brooks Brothers. And they took the camel hair coats and the fedoras, and they were wearing them to keep warm. It was this, they were dressed like businessmen, and they're trying to cut through this iron. And it went like that the whole night, sad, you knew. There was nobody coming out. And in the morning, I had to get to the Times on 43rd Street, where the ball drops for New Year's Eve. Give them my notes, because there's no way to get a hold of them. And by the morning, these very substantial people took it upon themselves. Anybody with a badge was holding perimeter. FBI, firemen, cops, sheriffs, you name it. You had a badge, you put it on a chain, and they directed people, and people listened. Because that's what happens in real times. Real people do things, and real people know who leaders are. I went to Danny, he's the head of security at the New York Times. And I said, Danny, let me get your badge. I need it for down there. And he gave it to him, and weeks later, I went to give it back to him, and he said, no, you keep that, man. I've always kept it. Danny, 202. So I put that on the chain, and I went back and forth. And it was this weirdness. Anyway, you go in there, it's burning, and nobody's in charge. I didn't see a doorknob. I didn't see a urinal. I didn't see a desk. I didn't see a human, except those trying to dig around flames, trying to find them. Everything was pulverized. We were breathing in porcelain and metal and humans. And thousands of pieces of paper were floating everywhere like seagulls, like doves, just drifting. It was gone. Women crying, coming up to me, looking for their niece. Said we had gotten in a fight last night, and now the phone doesn't work, and she's crying, and I hugged her, and when I looked up, there was like 5 TV cameras on us. It felt like rape. It was so invasive. It was like, what is this, a fucking TV show? This isn't a TV show. And those substantial men with the badges started getting it ordered where anybody that came down to volunteer, you were in a pen, and they were dividing you up of where you should go, and getting gloves at this time and a mask and the pails, and I remember you wrote your name and your blood type on this arm, LeDuff, AB positive, and you wrote your phone number on this arm in case you fell through and you died. And they were all lined up on West Side Highway. Ambulances, fire trucks, construction workers, nurses. And then I knew it was our country. It was the biggest crime scene that I ever witnessed. And I wanted the fucker that did it.
Get my back, get my back.
Oh my God.
I covered that hole the whole year for the New York Times. I felt that was my contribution to society, that our grandchildren might want to know who we are. And at that moment, people wanted to know what was happening. We were looking for those firefighters, weren't we? And the police. I just came of age. Then I knew what human beings are capable of. Then I profoundly understood what hate was and despair. And hope. I would go in and out of that hole. I was at 40 firemen's funerals, if it was one. I chronicled the firehouse. I remember people were lashing out like Sikhs. You know, Sikhs aren't Muslims. Sikhs are their own religious sect from India. And there was a kid, he got in some fight. I went to interview him because I had to, and he had taken off his turban and cut his hair, which is really religiously important to the Sikhs. And he did it because he didn't want to be seen as a Muslim. So he changed himself. And he said to me, "Bro, nobody hates Muslims more than us." And I said, "That ain't gonna get us where we need to go." I said, "The murder's only just begun. We gotta stop. It's important because it's the beginning of the modern way of life. Your own government spies on you, ID every place. I can't get to Canada." They accomplished what they wanted to accomplish by flying those jets into those towers. Big Brother's all over you now. The world's at war with itself. That was the beginning. Don't forget. Never forget. Never forget the very substantial people that ran in there. Something that tall. It's on fire. Only to have a collapse on them. There was a fireman from Squad 1 in Brooklyn. He slept with a radio. He got up at Staten Island, took the Verrazano Bridge, took the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and ran up into that building in time to meet his death. He deserves to be remembered. Life goes on. How were people feeling? Together. At least New York was. And I'm told America was, and everybody's flying the flags. Remember, everybody's a brother, remember? There's no black, there's no white, there's no brown, there's no rich, there's no poor. Because, you know, look, we don't have to be the strongest, but you know we're tough. Right? Don't tread on me kind of thing. And everybody's flying the flags. And then it was getting near the winter, and it's the Brooklyn Queen Expressway. It's elevated, it's up on stilts. And I'm heading downtown Brooklyn for whatever reason in my car from Queens. And it's a traffic jam. And there's a flag laying in the middle of rush hour. And I put it in park and I got out. And that flag was laying in the middle of the expressway. I got out and I got it. That's this flag right here. Same flag. It's been in my car every day since. Every day. A little worse for the wear, but I looked it up last night. That one, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That one right there is Michigan. It's my home in the USA, right there, that one, 26th. Right smack in the middle. And that's who went over, that's who we sent. All the dudes from the middle, because that's who does all the work. If we forget, our kids are gonna do it. Just like we forgot all about World War II. We forgot about Vietnam. We forgot every time you launch a boat, something's launched back at you. If you're going to send people, have a plan, have a reason, because it's my people that go. If I could tell people and they would actually listen, you have to stick to your convictions. But the strong can move if they're shown that it's not correct. That hate begets hate. The world's getting smaller, we're gonna have to share. That remember we have more in common than we feel. That we're getting stirred up for somebody else's gain, some political gain. They used mass murder to convince us to go do the same. Now everybody's hurt, everybody's broke, and we're no better off than we were. Try to love one another. And if you can't do that, come to a compromise. Don't let them lead you around. Everybody's just as important as everybody else. That's why I'll never forget them. Not the firefighters, not the executive assistants, not the bond brokers, not Umberto, the nameless, everybody. Do we ever improve? Is anything ever learned from it? Doesn't every generation say never again? Isn't that why we should remember? So maybe really there is a never again? That was a massacre. That was a homicide scene, and we returned the favor. I don't know. I did my best. I tried to write down who we were. I hope tomorrow you'll look for it, or your children will look for it, or your grandchildren. I left a record. That's the greatest contribution I made. I don't think it was enough.